Hi, welcome to Off Script. I'm Zach Lewis.
And I'm Dr. Draper.
Today on the show, we are taking a look at Shaka King's Judas and the Black Messiah, now a Golden Globe award-winning film. It's available on HBO Max. We watched it, and I'm excited to talk about it. We're also looking at Studio Ghibli's next big film, Earwig and the Witch. It is also on HBO Max. A little unconventional for Studio Ghibli and their first film in 4 years. I made Andy watch it. We're going to talk about it. It's going to be great. First things first. We are going to talk about the Golden Globes. That's not actually coming first. That's coming in the middle of the show. The first thing we are getting to is the news. And before we get to all that, Andy, we haven't done a show in like 3 weeks. This is the longest time we've gone without doing a show. Yeah, in forever.
Snowpocalypse.
Oh, we had Snowpocalypse. You watch any movies during that, or were you just out of power?
I was mostly out of power.
I was also out of power. Shout out to Texas and our cool electric grid. Thanks, guys. Yeah. That's what's going on with us. Then we took a week off for personal reasons. Now we're back, and we're excited to talk about stuff. First things first, the news. Edgar Wright to direct a Stephen King adaptation of The Running Man for Paramount Pictures. This is a surprise. My Edgar Wright, my boy, director of Hot Fuzz, Shaun of the Dead, The World's End, and most recently Baby Driver, is suddenly doing a movie, a Stephen King adaptation. What do you know about this, Andy?
So he's going to be adapting the 80s classic, The Running Man, which originally starred none other than Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it's kind of a futuristic dystopian thing where people are thrown into some sort of game show where they have to like run for their lives. Essentially, they're running from people essentially trying to kill them, all for the entertainment of millions of viewers at home. Like I said, it originally started Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's a little bit of a B-movie classic. It's not a great movie, but it's pretty interesting to be rebooted it with a great director.
Yeah, great director indeed. Like I said, I'm a big fan of Wright. I love a lot of his work. I have a Baby Driver poster hanging above my computer right now. Wright's last adaptation, the last thing he tried to adapt was Ant-Man for Marvel. In fact, the reason Ant-Man exists in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is because of Edgar Wright. He had a script he wanted to do, and he's really excited about it. He was in early talks to work through it with them, but then something went wrong along the way. He said it was something like creative vision. Marvel just kind of had an angle they wanted to do, and it wasn't really where he wanted to go, so it didn't work. So they parted ways, and Ant-Man became the Ant-Man movies that we know now. This is the first time I've heard of him adapting anything. Otherwise, he's done everything on his own. There were his own original scripts. Baby Driver, all of those were his own. But what's interesting about Wright right now is not only does he have a documentary in the works, the Sparks Brothers, a musical documentary that just got picked up by, I forget who, got picked up for distribution. I want to say by like CBS or Paramount, small world. But also he's directing Last Night in Soho, which is a movie that was supposed to come out earlier this year, but has been delayed due to the pandemic. So him directing a adaptation of a Stephen King book and also what was formerly an Arnold Schwarzenegger film is odd, I guess, but I'm excited, I think.
Yeah. You know, the original movie it toys with this idea of like media consumption and being obsessed with media and TV and kind of thing. And a lot of that like hasn't really changed. Like just the platforms and the technology has changed, but there's still kind of that like obsession with, TV and shows and that sort of thing. So I think it's going to be easy to kind of update it.
Yeah. And before I get too far away from it, I just looked up on IMDb. I was wrong. He has adapted a previous work. Scott Pilgrim versus the World is an adaptation of a comic book series. That's his film. And that was written by Michael Bacall, who will be penning the script for this movie. So the two of them are going to be back together. Most recently, Michael Bacall wrote 21 Jump Street and Inglourious Bastards. So that's where that guy's coming from. That's what's going on in The Running Man. Keep hearing Off Script for more. Next up, a new Superman movie is coming. A new reboot. Superman's getting rebooted again. Andy, I'm too excited about this. What do you know about it?
So, amid rumors that Henry Cavill was stepping down as Superman, we're going to be rebooting Superman again.
Yeah.
Again for the upteenth time. Maybe it'll stick. The DCEU, as we all know, kind of got off to a rocky start, never really took off in the way that the Marvel Cinematic Universe did. However, these are hot properties that money can still be made in the right directors. And so it's going to be produced, not directed by J.J. Abrams. I originally had heard he was going to be directing, in which case I was not thrilled about that at all, as he's the reboot king. He doesn't know how to finish a property. But it will be Is it written by the person who writes Black Panther?
Yeah, so it's written by Ta-Nehisi Coates, a really famous Black author in America. You may have heard of a few of his books. I wish I had them on hand, but this is a movie show, and I'm not the biggest reader like my wonderful wife. But yes, he most recently has done some writing for Black Panther and Captain America. Supposedly, according to Bob Iger, CEO of Disney, Ta-Nehisi's writing in Black Panther is what inspired them to make the film. So there's definitely something there. Yeah, and also worth mentioning, Ta-Nehisi Coates is currently, arguably, from what I've read, one of our greatest writers, one of the greatest American writers alive today, writing about morality. So there's something there about Superman. He is, of course, a Black author, and people have speculated, well, wait, hold on. Does this mean we might be getting that fabled Black Superman that Michael B. Jordan was all excited about when he came to Marvel? Maybe. Maybe not. There is some precedence in the comic books for a Black Superman on an alternate Earth. I forget his name. Clark Ellis, I think. So maybe that's the way this is going. Either way, I'm interested. I kind of hope we don't lose Henry Cavill because I think he's a good Superman, but we'll see, I guess.
He is. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised with the introduction of the multiverse, which is going to happen soon, where characters will be able to just kind of come back. I mean, we're going to be seeing Michael Keaton after 30 years. So there's no reason characters can't come back. But I'm always excited. I'm a big Superman fan, and we've talked about this before. He's a hard character to adapt. To really make him interesting, because he is kind of like godlike and perfect. So you have to introduce interesting villains, interesting conflicts that kind of bring the audience along. And you can't just be all spectacle. That's, I think, been the issue with Zack Snyder more than anything, is he focuses on the spectacle and kind of loses focus of the characters.
Yeah, so we'll see. I'm interested. Like you said, there's definitely potential. I would love it if they could figure out a way to keep Cavill in, but if they're rebooting it, what are you going to do, right? Like you can't reboot with the same Superman. I mean, you could, but I don't know. We'll see. That's weird. Keep it here on Off Script for more. The last story we have: Paramount Plus. What? Everything you need to know about Viacom CBS's new streaming service as we inch ever closer to what essentially is a cable package, as the boomers know it. More streaming services are coming out. Everybody wants a piece of the streaming pie, and CBS is basically sunsetting their CBS service, as we know it, CBS All Access, and rolling it into Paramount Plus, the exciting new Plus service everybody's got to have. Last Wednesday, they announced this in a big meeting, a big public 3-hour thing where they had a bunch of trailers and stuff that was coming out. Nobody watched it because everybody already has Netflix and Hulu, but we here on Off Script also didn't watch it. We read the article and we're excited to talk about it. Andy, now that I've forced you to read this, what do you know about Paramount Plus?
So like you said, this is formerly CBS All Access, and they're going to be kind of rebranding it as Paramount Plus. Shout out to Disney Plus for bringing us the Plus branding that everyone is stealing or stolen.
Apple Plus, Disney Plus, Paramount Plus. Who else? Universal Plus? I don't know.
So they're going to have two tiers. They're going to have an ad-supported tier that's $4.99, and then ad-free tier for $9.99, and it's going to have a bunch of CBS properties, which is a bunch of things I don't really watch. And but they do have, I mean, they do have a significant amount of subscribers. They're over like 30 million, as well as on their Pluto TV service, which is another streaming service that they own. So there's a lot going on. It does have a built-in fan base. There are, as much as I don't watch a lot of network TV and never have, there are millions of people who do, and they definitely have a piece of the pie that they can carve out and make money on. So that's what's going to be starting. This starts actually March 4th, and then the ad-supported, or the cheaper version, starts in June.
That's right. If you're listening to this show, odds are you can already get Paramount Plus, or it'll be within 48 hours of you being able to get it, because we're recording this on the 2nd. A lot of interesting properties coming to this. They're doing some series reboots of popular films like Grease and Flashdance. They're going to do a series about the making of The Godfather. Frasier is getting a reboot on Paramount Plus, and Kelsey Grammer is already attached to star. Halo, the video game series, is getting a series they're working on. Star Trek is coming over. They're adding a new series from there, along with Star Trek Discovery. All 726 episodes of every Star Trek series is going to be available. Every episode of SpongeBob SquarePants is going to be available, and a ton of the Nickelodeon library. CBS is building out a whole new thing for Avatar: The Last Airbender, and they've claimed that movies like A Quiet Place Part 2 and Mission Impossible 7, things that Paramount has a hand in, will be coming to the service just 45 days after the theatrical release window. So lot going on in Paramount Plus. Is it worth it? Probably not, but we'll keep it posted. I'm skeptical.
There's so many services now. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, my cap is like 4 or 5, man. And between like Amazon, Hulu, and HBO and Disney Plus, I don't know if I need any more. I got Netflix, maybe, but like I don't know if I can do Paramount Plus. That's a lot. Even with that $10 sweet ad-free deal, even with the $5 sweet ad-supported deal, that's just a lot. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe we'll sign up for the trial and check it out. But with that, we need to move on to our first review. If I'm moving fast, it's because we got to talk about the Golden Globes, and it always takes us forever to talk about review stuff. So we'll get to it in between our reviews of Judas and the Black Messiah and Earwig and the Witch. But for now, Andy has graciously agreed to take the summary on this. Andy, please take it away.
Judas and the Black Messiah. So this is not a biopic, a bit of a biography about Black Panther chairman Fred Hampton.
Party chairman Fred Hampton.
Yes. Party chairman Fred Hampton, who was assassinated by the FBI, CIA, and he kind of what happens in this film. We learn about a character named Bill O'Neill who infiltrates the Black Panther organization. He gets in trouble with the law. They lean on him to infiltrate the Black Panther Party. He joins the movement so he can kind of report back what's happening, and along the way he becomes engrossed in the movement and what they're trying to do for Black America and oppressed people in America and everywhere else. So it's a very interesting film. Lakeith Stanfield plays Bill O'Neill, and of course the great Daniel Kaluuya plays Chairman Fred Hampton, and we get Jesse Plemons as well as the kind of sinister FBI go-to or handler. This is a pretty incredible film, and the trailer really got me right away, and it delivers. And we learn a lot about the Black Panther organization, what they were doing, what they weren't, what they were kind of propagandized as. There's a lot going on in this film. I really enjoyed it. There's a lot to talk about. Zach, what'd you think?
So I really liked it. Judas and the Black Messiah is a really good stuff. It's available on HBO Max. For those of you who haven't seen it, we'll talk about it more at the end and where you can find it. But I was a little overhyped for this movie. I'll be honest. I thought it was going to be something it wasn't. And I think that kind of sullied my first experience, but I really enjoyed it. It's worth another rewatch, I think, for me. I definitely thought it was going to be more about kind of Lakeith Stanfield's Bill O'Neill and kind of his journey. I mean, he's literally front and center on the poster. But it's really about both of them, Fred Hampton and Bill O'Neill, right? Like the kind of this kind of interesting dynamic duo who really actually don't spend that much time together on screen. They're both kind of living their own lives. The movie does a funny job of keeping them both at arm's length. It never really lets you be too personal with either of them. It kind of observes them a little bit more as almost a documentary style. Keeps them far away, keeps them separated through history and time from us, the audience. But it also lifts up who they are and what they've done. In the case of Fred Hampton, the things he did that were tremendous for the Black community, for the Black Panthers. I mean, the steps he was willing to take as a 21-year-old man, he wasn't even that old, to change the world around him, versus Bill O'Neill, who's the exact opposite, right? He's our Judas titular character, who is selling out everything he knows to try to get out of an FBI charge for stealing a car. It's pretty damning, and it's surprising. It tells the story in a way I haven't heard it before, and I'm excited to talk about it. Andy, where do we jump in on this?
Why don't we start with the plot?
Yes.
So like we said at the beginning, we meet Lakeith Stanfield as Bill O'Neill. He gets caught or in trouble with the law. He gets pressured to join the organization. He is pretty easy to, he just kind of shows up, signs up. And at first, he doesn't really care what they're doing. He's just trying to get out of getting in trouble, but he gets deeper and deeper. And on both sides, he becomes trusted by the organization and by Chairman Fred Hampton. And he also gets deeper in with the FBI, who kind of, no matter what he does, he's going to kind of be working for them until till kingdom come. He can't really get out of either side, and there's a lot of danger. It reminds me a little bit of the Departed, where Leonardo DiCaprio's character is trying to be an undercover in this really dangerous mob organization, because Bill O'Neill, he's in danger of being killed by the Black Panther Party, because they will absolutely kill traitors and, kind of moles. And then he's also got to keep the FBI at bay, who will give him, 5 years in federal prison or worse, So it's a very tricky position. But the movie is also about just the organization of the Black Panther Party, what they were trying to do, the good they were trying to do, the changes they were trying to make, and the inspirational figure that was Daniel Kaluuya, was Chairman Fred Hampton, played by Daniel Kaluuya. So that's kind of our like I said, it's our setup, and it's Zach, take this off me.
Yeah, no, I think Daniel Kaluuya is tremendous in this film. He won the Golden Globe for it. We'll talk about Golden Globe winners in just a second, but it's not without good reason. He is very, very good in this movie. He's always been good. Let me be clear. From like watching Get Out, you were like, oh man, this kid is really good at what he does, and it's great to see him finally getting awarded for that. He's tremendous in Widows. He's really good, but he's really good in this movie because he really manages to nail this feeling like Fred Hampton. I mean, I don't know Fred Hampton. I've spent a lot of time watching stuff on Fred Hampton, but this film opens with a great historical montage of like actual old footage of Black Panthers and FBI raids. And then after a couple minutes of montage, slips in a shot of Daniel Kaluuya as Fred Hampton just to kind of like integrate this illusion that we're like stepping back in time. And the first time you see him, I mean, we know it's Daniel Kaluuya watching it, but like he really starts to transform on screen. He's got this accent and he's rugged and he's kind of got this scowl on his face, but he's passionate. He's very impassioned about what he's talking about. And this is held up so nicely against Lakeith Stanfield, who is just kind of nobody. I mean, they do a really clever job of introducing him on screen when he gets caught for this crime that he's committed. And he gets taken in by this FBI agent, Agent Mitchell, played by Jesse Plemons, very menacing, very, very, very Philip Seymour Hoffman-esque that way. Jesse Plemons is. And Lakeith is scared, and Bill O'Neill is this just kind of twig of a man. I mean, like he's just not a lot to him, not a lot of meat on those bones. He's scared and know what to do. And he's put up against a wall, and you have the option. Okay, you can sell out your friends, you can go home the night, or you can spend 20 years in jail. What do you want to do? And he picks the road less traveled by, I think, and that's fundamentally where our film heads. And the two of them are so great. Lakeith Stanfield caught a lot of heat for this movie, especially from, I think, some more outspoken members of the Black community, like the Breakfast Club, Charlemagne the God. He had some shit to say about him, and I think we can talk about the controversy in a minute. But as far as the performances go, they're both outstanding. I wish Lakeith had been nominated as well. I think he deserves it. But
yeah, you're exactly right. Well, Daniel Kaluuya does a great job as embodying Fred Hampton. Lakeith Stanfield is the main character, and he does hold most of the movie. And he's such a tortured person because he believes in this cause. He wants to support the cause, and at the same time he's actively undermining it, to kind of save his own neck. Which is, it's hard to say, like, would you do any different kind of situation? He's in a lose-lose situation.
Yeah, and the movie escalates, right? Because when it starts, he gets busted, and it's like, hey, we want you to get involved with these Black Panthers. And he's like, okay, that's it. Yeah, I can do that. That's easy. And then he realizes he can't really get out of this deal. Like, it just keeps going. And our Agent Mitchell, kind of invites him into his home, and he's like, hey, let me explain why this is a big deal. These guys are terrorists. They're bad. All right. They're just as bad as the KKK. Like if you would out the KKK, you would out them. Right. And at the same time that he's getting this information from the FBI that, hey, he's being fed this idea that the Black Panthers are not beneficial to the community, that they're bad people. Things start to escalate on the Black Panther side. We get some infighting in the community. There's firearms, right? People are shot. It starts to step up. And as the movie goes on, like, you find these situations getting more and more hairy. We're getting into clashes with police now. We're having shootouts in the streets. Like, it's getting worse. And the body count starts building. And Bill O'Neill is caught in the middle of this and has to wrestle with himself. Hey, not only am I involved, I'm starting a lot of this. Like, people are dying because of the actions I feel like I'm being forced to take. And if I were to try to get out now, it's too late. Who knows what they would do to me if they found out I was an FBI informant. So he's really trapped against a wall. And the movie does a great job of ratcheting up that suspension as we go.
Yeah, part of what I think this movie is doing, it tells this story of these two characters, but it's just informing us about, again, what the Black Panther Party really was and what it wasn't. And it also shows the way it was just undermined and targeted by the U.S. government in ways that were incredibly, discriminatory. And this, you see, not only the government but also local police, where there's this. I mean, it's just state-sanctioned terrorism essentially against the black community. And you have Martin Sheen playing J. Edgar Hoover, who's kind of focusing on the Black Panthers and talking about like they're trying to destroy our way of life and all these really, white supremacist kind of ideals. And it's so interesting because Jesse Plemons' character is not, he's not someone he doesn't throw anyone up against a wall. He doesn't rough up anyone up, but he helps carry out these kind of executions and other kinds of things that completely undermine what they're trying to do.
Right. Everybody is a wheel, like a cog in this giant clockwork of a system. And like even the people who don't necessarily agree, from Bill O'Neill to even Agent Mitchell, right? He's not necessarily like in alignment with this idea that like the Black Panthers are bad. He's not even, I would think the film implies he's not even particularly like racist. But that doesn't matter. Like the U.S. government sees this as a threat, and therefore they're going to stop it. This movie does no favors to the government and the FBI. Looking at the title, right, Black Messiah, it very clearly lays out this idea that like Fred Hampton was a very good person, and the FBI is very bad people. And I think that's what makes this so interesting. This isn't exactly like our public school system history lesson here. This is a different look. This is the different take. And that's exciting. That's different. You don't see that in movies every day, right? We go to movies to escape and find out something new. And that's exactly what this movie's doing. It's telling a side of a story I haven't heard before. And it's doing it in a way that's so captivating. Shaka King, the director, has not directed a feature film since 2013. This is like his third one. And it's super good. How has this person not been making more movies? It's stunning to me. And I'm so impressed by the work in this film.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's really interesting about the chairman that we learn is that, and why it's called, he was the Black Messiah, because he was bringing people together, people of all different kind of walks of life, rival gangs, like there's this great scene where he walks into like what's kind of like not a Confederate area, but he walks into a church where there's a bunch of like kind of rural white people. Yeah. Who are also complaining about some of these things. There's a big Confederate flag on the wall, and he walks in and he helps to essentially start creating this rainbow coalition of not just rival like black gangs, but also poor whites, LGBTQ, other people of color. And this is what the government really fears the most: is that he will unite all these disparate not races, but just groups and organizations into one like really powerful thing. And that's their biggest fear.
Right. Like this idea that he's not like Malcolm X, right? Who was a character who was obviously outspoken and strong, but definitely believed a little bit more in this idea of lines across society and who we are and who we say. Fred Hampton, meanwhile, is a young individual who's like, why do we have to be on different sides? We're all suffering. Why can't we all come together and do something about that? And that's really inviting, not only for the characters in the film who are typically decrying him before they find, okay, he's not so bad, but for the audience, for me to watch this movie and go, wow, what he's saying kind of makes sense now. he's talking about stuff that I saw on Twitter last week, like that's really revelatory. And it's not just because this was a script that was written a couple of years ago. It's because this stuff is still a problem in America, and this isn't things we've solved. In fact, it's only gotten worse. And it's fascinating. It's a fascinating look back at history. It's a fascinating retelling of events. It's a fascinating performance on both sides from both of these individuals. I was really, really impressed by this film. I'd like to talk about the music. I don't have a lot to say, unfortunately. I don't really recall anything outstanding. I did enjoy the color grading. This movie's very dark, lots of shadows, and that was really cool. Man, I just thought the world of it.
Yeah, I was going to say, so I listened to an interview with Lakeith Stanfield, who's just had this really incredible career, which it was funny. He was in a movie called Short Term 12, which a bunch of stars like Rami Malek.
Brie Larson was in Short Term 12, yeah.
Right. A bunch of people that are big stars now in like 2012, 2013. That movie was originally a short, and then it eventually got funded to become a full movie, and they couldn't find Lakeith Stanfield, like, because he had like no phone and no like permanent address, and like someone saw his like he had signed up with some film board in somewhere in California, and like the directors had to find it, like they found him, that were able to locate him. But anyways, I heard a really good interview of him, and he's just in awe of Daniel Kaluuya and Fred Hampton and everything that he gets to do in this movie.
Yeah, I probably read. Was that a Vanity Fair interview? Because I read one the other day with him.
Oh no, it was the Kermode.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so I was reading about him as well. Both of these guys are very interesting individuals, Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith Stanfield. But Lakeith is particularly, I don't know, he catches my eye in a way. I've seen him in Atlanta. Obviously, saw him in smaller stuff like Get Out. Sorry to Bother You, which we reviewed on the show, is excellent, by the way. That's on Hulu. It's a super good movie. You should go check it out. But Lakeith is an interesting individual. And originally, he thought he was going to be playing Fred Hampton up until one day. He like happened to Google this story and Googled Bill O'Neill and realized, oh, I look a lot like Bill O'Neill. Huh, that's weird. So he had a really conflicted performance with this because he, in a lot of ways, very much vehemently disagrees with Bill O'Neill and who he is. He originally wrote him off as just like a punk who like sold out everybody for himself, like, the worst kind of person you can be. And he had a tough time playing the role because he was playing this guy who so fervently is against what Lakeith believes.
Right.
And he's been called out for it. Yeah.
I mean, no one wants to be Judas.
No, exactly. Nobody wants to play Judas. Yeah. And like Lakeith really struggled with that in this film. So I think his performance shines through regardless. I think that's a sign of a great actor, an actress, that like you can stand outside of your personal beliefs and do well at this. And he did. They're both tremendous.
Well, also, excuse me. I mean, that's the thing. Like the point of the movie is to tell us about, the story is about Judas. It's about like, you're not supposed to like, he's not the hero. He's just the main character.
Right.
So it's weird that people are struggling with that.
Yeah. So it's a somber movie, unfortunately. If you don't know what happens to Fred Hampton, I suppose I'd tell you to watch the film. But it's, we probably said in this review at some point what happens to Fred Hampton, but I mean, also Bill O'Neill, right? Like he's a part of this story. The people in Fred Hampton's lives are a part of this story, and you kind of find out more about what happens to them. And it's a tough watch at the end, but it's an encouraging film, and it's phenomenally well made. Obviously, Golden Globe award-winning movie at this point. I am excited to see it at the Oscars. I think it will come up again. Andy, any other thoughts for recommendations?
I think I'm ready.
Judas and the Black Messiah is available on HBO Max for streaming. If you have the means, I would say you might check it out there. But before we get to that, Andy, would you recommend Judas and the Black Messiah?
Absolutely. It's a really powerful film. Great performances by Lakeith Stanfield and Daniel Kaluuya. It is a tough watch, because it is about racism and oppression of Black movements in the 60s, which most people know by now were pretty much crushed and undermined and all that stuff by the U.S. government. So it's tough subject matter. There's some violence in the scenes as well, but it's one of those things like everyone deserves to know about this and to learn about it, even if it's not a particularly comfortable subject.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I would definitely recommend this movie. It is not quite what you expect going in. That's the one thing I'd say. If you watch trailers and got excited like I did, leave your expectations at the door. Going fresh, even listening to this review, but I think you'll like what you find. It's a really well-made film, 2 really stunning performances from a couple of young actors who obviously have a lot of runway ahead of them. Very excited to see what they do next. Very excited to recommend this movie. It's available on HBO Max. With that, we should probably move on to our next section of the show. This is something that, like I said earlier, takes a lot of time for us to get through normally, but I'm going to try to keep us moving along. We're doing pretty good on time right now. So, Andy, do you mind introducing this for me? Let's jump right into it.
It's time for the death of cinema.
So we are talking about the Golden Globes and the 2021 award winners and snubs. That's important. We did our picks last time we talked about the show 3 weeks ago. Now we are talking about the winners. We are talking pretty much exclusively about the film ones. If we happen to mention television, it's because it's errant. This is a film podcast, by God. And that's what we're going to do with that. which should have been at the Golden Globes. So, Andy, where do you want to start this thing? We start at the top, best picture, or are we going like reverse like they do it to build up?
So we'll start. I mean, there's a film category. It starts with best picture, musical or comedy, which is kind of an odd category. The winner is Borat, subsequent movie film, which was kind of funny, but there also weren't a ton of winners this year. My pick would have been Palm Springs. It's also important to point out this movie Music, which I've heard some more about, which is a film by Sia about an autistic girl. Apparently it's really awful and has really inaccurate depictions of what autism is and isn't. And I was listening to another show, and there were people writing in, and there's actually some really dangerous depictions, particularly with like the use of like medical restraints and So don't watch that; it's terrible. But anyways, Borat, not surprising. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I want to. Can I weigh in on Borat? Is that okay?
Yeah. Go ahead.
It should have been Palm Springs. That's my. Also,
Palm Springs is a gem of a film. It's funny. It's sweet. It's short. I feel like Borat won just because it's the name.
Yeah, like I feel like Palm Springs, in a way, like really kind of captures where we were as a society in the middle of the pandemic, when we were all trapped inside. And Andy Samberg plays this character who is like trapped in the situation and has a very nihilistic view on life. It's original. I know it kind of rips off the Groundhog Day idea, but it feels fresh. It stars a couple of millennials. Borat 2 is okay. It wasn't as good. I don't know. Yeah, and also, I heard the same thing about Music. Do your own research. Apparently, that movie is really controversial. Next up. Best Motion Picture Drama. Can I take it, Andy? Is that okay?
Go ahead.
Yes, Best Motion Picture Drama went to Nomadland. We will be talking about this movie soon on the show. It is currently available on Hulu to stream if you haven't seen it yet. I'm a little bummed it didn't go to Mank. That was my hopeful because I'm a David Fincher diehard, but that's okay. Mank is on Netflix. I'm glad it didn't go to Trial of the Chicago 7 on Netflix. That's kind of where I land on this. What do you think, Andy?
I haven't seen Nomadland either. I'm excited to see it. I've heard really good things. Trial of the Chicago 7. It's got some problems. Mank was fine. Promising Young Woman. I've had a lot of conversations about this movie, and
it keeps coming up. Yeah.
Well, it's one of these things. I think the movie has a lot of big issues, but it's kind of just getting a lot of. It's a little bit like the music film that we were just talking about, because the subject matter is just being kind of thrusted. It's a film about sexual assault, so we have to praise it. And it's kind of like criticism proof at the moment, and I think it has some real issues.
Phenomenally well made, though. Promising Young Woman is well put together, but the writing is, I don't know, something about it. Anyway, foreign language, best motion picture.
Yeah. So the winner, and this is kind of an odd thing. It went to Minari, which is the new. It's not a foreign film; it's an American-made film, but it happens to be about a Korean family that moves to Alabama in the '80s to start a farm, starring Stephen Yuen from The Walking Dead. I've seen this; it's really good. We're going to be talking about it next week. But it's weird because generally, this is to try to encourage films that are not produced in America or other English-speaking countries, but it goes with a language thing for some reason.
Yeah, they did a very good job of not saying this is foreign film. They said foreign language. Minari is an American film by an American director with American writers, filmed entirely in America with American funding from American film companies. There's nothing not American about it. It is a story about the American dream. I haven't seen it, but that's what I've heard. Andy, can you confirm? You've seen it, right?
Yes. Well, like I said, the premise is a family moves to a Korean family, very traditional family, moves to the rural South to start a farm.
Yeah, I just realized my awesome banner here has an error in it. Anyway, I'm bummed by that. Also, that is currently available on VOD or in theaters, and the other one I know in here is Another Round, which is also available on VOD that I really want to see because it stars Mads Mikkelsen as a drunk teacher. Best screenplay motion picture goes to Aaron Sorkin, The Trial of the Chicago 7. I'm surprised.
I am and I'm not. That's a travesty. That should definitely have gone to Mank, and it went to Aaron Sorkin just because he's like a name.
Yes, because he's Aaron Sorkin. I know this movie juggles a lot of stars. I know it's a pretty controversial topic, I guess, but I really am bummed. Yeah, I think Jack Fincher wrote a script over 20 years ago, and the fact that that movie came out and happened and was even here in this list is pretty tremendous. This feels like, oh, okay, well, it's Aaron Sorkin. He's a great screenwriter. There, we'll give it to him. So I'm bummed. I'm bummed. It didn't go to Jack Fincher. It's okay though. Honestly, a lot of good nominees in this section, so it's okay, I guess.
Right. Going on to Best Actor in Supporting Role, we mentioned Daniel Kaluuya for Judas and the Black Messiah. Well deserved.
Yeah, big well deserved. The best actress. Any thoughts on the other ones? Not really. Best actress in supporting role. Jodie Foster for The Mauritanian. I wish I had seen this movie. It's not. I went and looked it up the other day. I don't think it's available streaming anywhere yet, so we kind of just have to wait. But when it comes around, I'll see if I can catch a screening of it somewhere so we can talk about it on the show. Because supposedly it's pretty good.
Well, see, again, that's another one that I've heard is kind of okay, but it's getting attention because of the subject matter. It's about
Guantanamo.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either, though.
Yeah. Best actor, Andy.
Best actor in a motion picture. But in the musical or comedy, Sacha Baron Cohen for Borat. He had to not be Borat. I don't think that really counts. All these people are this is a terrible category. James Corden, Dick Robb, Lin-Manuel Miranda for Hamilton. Obviously, Hamilton's good. That's not a movie though. Dev Patel, The Personal History of David Copperfield, which we didn't watch here, but I've heard really good things about. And Andy Samberg for Palm Springs.
Yeah, Dev Patel is a good actor, and I didn't see that movie, but yeah, I've heard good things too. Maybe we'll try to go back and watch it at some point. He's going to be in The Green Knight. A24's The Green Knight whenever that comes out, so I'm excited to see that. But otherwise, yeah, okay. I guess Borat 2 gets hit. I don't know. Maybe it's a slow year at the movies, right? This is what we get when we have a pandemic, when we should have films. Best motion picture animated goes to Pixar's Soul. Yes, the Disney Pixar film that came out for free on Christmas Day on Disney Plus. Is the winner. I'm not really surprised by the way this went. I know a lot of people had hope for Wolfwalkers. Wolfwalkers came out on Apple Plus. It was dead in the water. So that's my humble opinion on Wolfwalkers. Nobody can watch it. So
you're never gonna beat Disney or Pixar half the time.
I mean, yeah.
And there's two of them on here. Onward was the other Pixar one, but Soul is very good. It is very deserving.
It is also super good. Yes. Yeah, best actor in a motion picture drama. Really excited about this one. Best actor in a motion picture drama goes to Chadwick Boseman from Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. His wife very tearfully accepted the award via Zoom because everybody's socially distanced. Tough to watch. Tough to watch him not be able to accept that. He is super good in that movie. Yeah.
It's in a really incredible performance, and it's not just because it'd be easy to say, oh well, he's just winning it because it's a posthumous award because he passed away this year, and that's not true at all. If he were still alive, he would still be getting recognized for this role. It's a really incredible performance.
He refuses to not step on the gas in that role. He leans into it 100%, and he's got energy, and he lights up the screen. And whenever he is on screen, you are looking at him before anybody else. I'm a little bummed Riz Ahmed didn't get it. Because on it, dude, Riz Ahmed needs some awards. That kid's good. He's good at he's a good actor, and Sound of Metal was good stuff. And of course, Gary Oldman for Mank. I like Gary Oldman. I like David Fincher. I like Mank. That's just me. It's fine.
Moving on to Best Actress in Drama, went to Andra Day for The United States versus Billie Holiday, which we have not seen. I think it's just now on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, which we'd probably need to watch it at some point. I'm a little surprised Viola Davis didn't get it because, dude, she is a different person in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. She is unrecognizable in that role. Frances McDormand in Nomadland is also a bit of a surprise. And frankly, Carey Mulligan in Promising Young Woman, she's super good in that movie. I may not have been super into where that film was pointed, but the way it was delivered was really solid, and she carries the whole thing. Best Actress in a Motion Picture, Musical, or Comedy, Rosamund Pike for I Care a Lot. This is on Netflix right now. I think it's Netflix.
Yeah, we haven't seen it.
No, we haven't seen it. I've heard good things, and I've heard she's very good in it. I've also heard, just like Promising Young Woman, it's oddly problematic. So
I've heard that too. Also, I feel like she won because she's Rosamund Pike.
I really wish my girl Anya Taylor-Joy could have caught one for this, but she ended up having some success in the TV category, so good for her.
My choice would have been Maria Bakalova she was the highlight of the Borat film, and like her career is like going to really take off because of it.
Right. Meanwhile, Best Actor in a Motion Picture, Musical, or Comedy was
Sacha Baron Cohen from Borat subsequent movie film.
Why does Borat get like 5 Golden Globes? It's ridiculous. It wasn't even that good. Yeah, Borat. Sacha Baron Cohen takes it for Borat again. It's like you said earlier. He's kind of acting, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it's really strange. Yeah, I mean that movie is. I mean, Borat is a product of its time, and it just doesn't work in the age of internet, YouTube's content, and all that. It seems really tame and lame.
Yeah, it really does. Also, we've 100% already covered this category. CNN printed this twice in their article. So thanks, CNN. You really are fake news. Best Director goes to Chloe Zhao for Nomadland. I'll be honest. I definitely have watched Nomadland already. It's on Hulu. This is a little surprising. It's very well directed, and we'll talk about it more next week when we review it formally. But I was really hoping for like Fincher, right? Something really bold. And I'm glad Regina King got a nod on here. I didn't think she was going to win, but I'm glad she got some recognition.
Yeah, I haven't seen Nomadland either. I've seen all the rest of them. So we'll see. Again, we're going to be talking about that next week.
Yep. And one more, if you don't mind me touching it. The best original score went to Soul. Disney Pixar film, obviously very music important. What's interesting about this is the same composers nailed 2 of these. Mank and Soul are both Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross of Nine Inch Nails fame. They did both of the scores, so it's cool to see them on here twice. Glad they got some recognition. Bum Tom Hanks's News of the World didn't catch one, but he's just gonna have to try again next time, I guess. Mm-hmm. Any thoughts on this year's Golden Globes, general, before we move on?
Again, it seems to be a lot of rewarding people who are just big names, whether or not they deserve it or not. Like I said, Sacha Baron Cohen, Borat, Rosamund Pike, Aaron Sorkin, like those. Charlie's Chicago 7 has some good elements to it, but it's also kind of forgettable in a lot of ways. So it's just, yeah, I'm going to be anxious when the Oscar noms come out a little bit later this month.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I don't want to say this is like, oh, we're just picking people who are popular, but like it feels a little disingenuous. And maybe it's just because we haven't had a good year with movies. Like there just wasn't a lot going on. So they kind of had to pick the best of the bad bunch. Borat 2 got 2 Golden Globes. Come on, guys. Like we knew better than that. I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed we couldn't do anything more profound and original. Hamilton getting multiple nods. It's like, guys, they set up a camera and filmed a stage play. I know there's a little bit more to it than that, but it's not like a pure adaptation. Like it's literally just the filming of the Tony Award winning play. Why does that have multiple noms? Like I'm a little disappointed in the Golden Globes this year. So I'm hoping the Oscars will kind of save a little face, maybe take this as an example and do something different. Odds are they'll do the same thing. We'll have to see. Keep it here on Off Script for more. With that, we should move on to our final film review of the episode. I'm going to be taking the summary on this, so please excuse my clumsy delivery. The movie is Earwig and the Witch. So, Earwig and the Witch is the new Studio Ghibli film. It's currently available on HBO Max, where all of the other Studio Ghibli films are available for streaming. It is their first film in 4 years. They've been doing some work in video games. They've been doing some work in television on Amazon Prime, but this is their first proper feature film. Earwig and the Witch is not hand animated like we typically expect Studio Ghibli films to be. This is computer animated. It's directed by Goro Miyazaki, one of Hayao Miyazaki's sons. It is a CGI adaptation of the Dianna Wynne Jones novel, Earwig and the Witch. It's a kid's story. And the movie is about Earwig, a young orphan who is unexpectedly adopted by an evil witch and her even more evil roommate. And along the way, Earwig has to cope with that, deal with that, and maybe learn a little bit of magic if she plays her cards right. It is a very short film. It is not feature length. It's like 80 minutes, and that features a beginning and end credits sequence. So even with those gone, it's like 72 minutes long. It is a fast burn, and we like to say on this show, a good movie is never too long and a bad movie is never too short. This movie might just break that rule. Andy, what did you think of Earwig and the Witch?
So this is a nice, cute little kids film. It's definitely aimed at a very young audience. We see that reflected in the runtime. Everything's kind of simple. We don't have kind of the Studio Ghibli magic from a lot of their films which are animated and aimed at younger audiences, but usually have a lot of depth to them. We'll have kind of deeper themes, like things like Princess Mononoke explore like environmentalism and technology, and so we kind of don't have any of that. But it's still it's a nice, fun film for the kids. It's, like I said, it's short. The animation, some of it looks really great, and then some of it looks like you're playing a bad video game. Sometimes it's really kind of, I don't know, it's weird. It's hit and miss.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. This falls on the lesser side of the Studio Ghibli films, right? There's the films that you really remember that stand out: Academy Award-winning film Spirited Away, Princess Mononoke, My Neighbor Totoro. Mostly the Hayao Miyazaki films. And then there's the ones that aren't Hayao Miyazaki that fall short, right? Things like When Marnie Was There, or maybe Secret World of Arrietty. Movies that are good, but they're not, like, they just don't have that something. There's this piece of something they're missing that don't quite escalate them over to be something really tremendous. This movie falls in that category. It's not one of their better ones. I was really interested to see it because of the animation. And because it's their first theatrical in 4 years. I'm disappointed by what I saw. I know it's a kids movie, and as a kids movie, I think it kind of works. It's definitely odd. I would lean it more towards something like a Tim Burton film than I would like a Disney movie. It's offbeat, and it's a little creepy, but it's interesting. So I'm excited to talk about it. Andy, thank you again for watching it. I know you were not typically into this, so I appreciate you for me and all the other weebs on the show. Let's jump right into it. First things first, our plot. Young Earwig is an orphan at a very nice kind of cathedral-looking orphanage with a good friend of hers. She gets dropped off in the night as a baby by her mom with this bolt of red hair. And then later, she is like 12 years old, and she's standing in line to get adopted. She's figured out this system to not get adopted. She's a very nice girl, Earwig, very nice, very helpful. But she doesn't want to get adopted because she doesn't want to have rules and standards, right? Like she leans away from that idea. So when a witch comes in to look at people to adopt and discovers during the lineup that Earwig has magical powers, she immediately chooses her to be adopted, whisks her away from her home, takes her to the laboratory where they live in this magical house. And suddenly Earwig discovers magic is not only real, but she's going to be learning it, which is exciting to her. She's into that. Like this situation that was formerly bad has now turned over and is really cool, but she's got to work for it. This witch is not nice, and her roommate, the mandrake, is even worse. These two do not mess around. So Earwig has to walk this clever line of being a nice person and doing the right thing, but also discovering more, getting out of what is essentially a prison in this house, and finding her way in the world. That's the setup. Unfortunately, it is a film that is lacking in substance. I've heard it said they ran out of money when they were making this movie, and it feels like that's true. There are not many characters. There are not many settings. There's not much as far as unique animation goes. It's kind of flat. And I think from what I've heard, it's because Studio Ghibli doesn't have any of the elements you need to make a film like this. They're not Blue Sky Studios, the now defunct Blue Sky Studios, rest in peace. Like, they don't have rigging, and they don't have like computers and servers and animation elements and all of this to put away. They had to build all that from scratch. And Goro Miyazaki, who had headed the film, was the one who kind of spearheaded that campaign to get them to kind of move into this idea of, hey, we're not doing hand animated, let's step into this. And it's a bit of a miss. It's like a technical test. I think it works, but like for a proper film, it's too short. There's not enough there. It feels like this is 2/3 of a movie. Andy, am I crazy? What'd you think?
No, it definitely feels, very short and abrupt. It also strangely lags in the middle, because it kind of goes on this cycle where she has to do all these kind of gross chores around the house and gets yelled at by the person she's adopted by, and they just kind of like go in circles for like half the movie. It's not a lot happens. Another thing that kind of I had an issue with is this is a Studio Ghibli film made in Japan. There were no Japanese subtitles or no Japanese audio. You had to listen to the dub.
Was it really not?
Instead of the subs, yeah.
I didn't catch that. That's odd. That's really odd.
So, like, I mean, definitely when I see if I definitely prefer to listen to the Japanese and read the subtitles. So I was a little. It keeps me more engaged, and something like this, I definitely needed it. But yeah, there were no subtitles.
Yeah, to follow on that line of adaptability or accessibility, I should say, the voice acting in this film is not great. The girl who plays Earwig is pretty good. Otherwise, there's nobody stellar in the cast, and that might sound silly. It's a children's animated film, but like Ghibli films typically pull big names. Like they get some pretty good names to do work for them. Their last released film was a re-release of a 1992 film only yesterday, and they got Daisy Ridley to voice the lead, and that's a 1992 movie that they readapted. And this was like in the height of the new Star Wars trilogy. They got Daisy Ridley. Like that's not cheap. They got Christian Bale to do Howl's Moving Castle in the middle of the Dark Knight, like right after he made Dark Knight. Like they typically get good performances out of their people, but this didn't have it. The voice acting's all a little subpar, I think, especially our witch, Bella Yaga. She is not awesome. And it's like you really need your antagonist to be pretty good, but she's lacking. And that's disappointing. The animation is stiff in the film. It feels a little bit at times like a stop motion film. It reminded me of like Frankenweenie or even Nightmare Before Christmas, Corpse Bride, right? Like I think it's because of the size of these characters. Their heads are going to be big and their eyes are large, right? So you get a little bit of that like uncanny Tim Burton kind of looking art style, but everything's hand animated. I don't think there's any motion capture. So everything feels a little bit like a stop motion movie, like a hand animator would animate a character. Like this is how these people, these animators animated these characters. And it just feels a little funny. I couldn't quite put my finger on what it was. It's unique, but it's not polished enough. It lacks a little something to really escalate it over and say it's tremendous. One thing I did really like in this movie, though, well, I'll talk about set dressing in a second. Andy, any thoughts on animation?
Like I said, sometimes it looks fine. It looks good. It starts off with this driving sequence actually that is pretty good, but then there's parts like when they're at the orphanage where like some of the characters' faces just look so flat. There's like no texture and no.
Yeah, they're stiff. Yeah.
Yes. So it's weird. Like there were definitely parts that look great and then parts that look really pretty bad.
Yeah, and I want to talk about for a moment the parts that look great. One thing this movie does really well is the Ghibli landscape. Ghibli is very good at having landscapes on screen that are very sparse, very big fields and wide open oceans and stuff. This movie does that great. Anytime the camera would like pan up from a house at night or something, and you see like kind of the cityscape behind or like these fields, it looks like it fell right out of a Ghibli movie. In fact, the art style is consistent with Ghibli's work. Like it looked like if you pause this movie at any one point and it had Ghibli animator draw that frame verbatim, just in the style of the hand-drawn animation, I think it would look exactly like it would had it been done by like Hayao Miyazaki's team. But it's animated with computers, and it's a little inconsistent. It's not bad. I do like the set dressing. This house they take place in has lots of textures and wallpapers on the wall, but it just feels a little hollow. Like it's lacking something. It's missing this kind of piece of something that makes their films magical, I think.
No, I definitely agree. Like I said, it doesn't have the unique look. And some of the things, when you think of, scenes from Spirited Away or Ponyo, these really kind of things that wow you, is just really lacking any of that.
Yeah, it just doesn't have that. One thing I do want to talk about is, while I keep talking about how it feels like they didn't have enough money to make this movie, because I keep saying that, but apparently like they genuinely had some trouble with funds building all of this rigging and all of this animation to make this film. Like they cost a lot. It's not cheap. This movie has it's got to be the most abrupt ending in the Ghibli catalog. The ending is so abrupt, I feel comfortable talking about it on this show, and you still won't see it coming. It literally feels like they didn't have enough money to finish the movie.
Yeah,
it just comes out of nowhere.
I was like, is there a part 2? Is there a direct sequel or something? Because
where's this going? Yeah. Is there an end credit sequence? It's very odd, and I don't know why it's that way. I don't think the book ends there. The book this is based on. I don't know. It's odd. So I find myself running out of things to say. It's not that I don't have more to it, but if there's not a lot of movie, if it's a short film, then there's not a lot to talk about. So Andy, any other thoughts for recommendations?
I'm ready.
Oh, one more thing while I'm thinking about it. The music. I did want to take a special note to talk about that. You'll see on the poster, if you're watching this in Facebook Live, a rock band 3-piece back there, 4 if you count Earwig singing. A lot of rock music in this, which was a surprise. Ghibli usually is going to be much more calm, much more like pianos or orchestral. Like, this was very hard 70s rock, and I really liked it. I actually really enjoyed the music in this movie, which is a weird point to point out, but I'm just saying if you give it a watch, I would encourage you to give it a listen as well. Anyway, Andy, ready for recommendations?
I am.
Andy, would you recommend Earwig and the Witch?
I'm going to go with a pass on this one. It is probably good for very young audiences. Like I said, it's short, it's easy to follow, it's fun. Like I said, it's very, my kid's first movie kind of situation. But it's not very good. It's not long enough. The animation looks bad sometimes. I had a hard time kind of paying attention through it, and it's not very long. And I understand I'm not the target audience, but it's just not a very good film. It's not a very good kids film either.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I would say this is probably a pass. If you are a Ghibli fan, if you have seen like 7 of their movies like I have, and you're into what's going on, go check it out. But I think this serves better as almost like a technical demo of what they could do with animation than like a proper example of what they are doing with it. It's not fleshed out enough. There's not enough here. It's a really good idea, but it's not enough to make a whole movie, and that's disappointing. So it's okay. I think if you have little kids who don't really keep up with story and are just like looking at stuff on screen, they'll probably be really interested in it because there's a lot of like surreal looking stuff happening, right? These characters moving around and magic, but ultimately, like I would encourage you to watch a handful of other Ghibli films before this one. So kind of a pass. I'm disappointed to have to say that, but I am excited to say what we are watching next week on the show. Andy, I think we already kind of told people during the Golden Globes. You mind filling them in?
Yeah, so we're going to be watching Nomadland, which is out, already out on Hulu, and Minari, which is also out on VOD. I actually had the privilege of being able to see it in theaters a couple of weeks ago. It's funny, I've seen that, and you've seen Nomadland, and so
yeah,
we both need to catch up on one other movie. And then there's also some notable releases, which we won't be watching, but are coming out. I said LA Confidential. Chaos Walking, which is the Daisy Ridley and Tom Holland kind of sci-fi film which was supposed to come out during like the Star Wars time. Like this film is supposed to be, it's like years past the production. It's finally coming out. Looks a little weird. I've heard it's not very good, but I do actually want to cut and try and see that sometime. So that comes out in theaters this Friday. Disney's Raya and the Last Dragon comes out on Disney Plus for an expensive $30 rental. And that comes out March 5th, and that will be available on Disney Plus in like 3 months without the additional fee. And then I wanted to also mention there's a film called Moxie that comes out March 3rd on Netflix, which is a high school comedy involving Amy Poehler, and I remember we talked about that before. So those lots of stuff coming out this week, and we're going to be focused on Nomadland and Minari for next week.
Not to mention, Amazon Prime is getting Coming to America, the Coming to America sequel of Coming to America. Also, HBO Max got Tom and Jerry. Rats, we missed our opportunity to watch that. Honestly, there's a lot of good stuff coming out. We are kind of getting into awards season here, so it's crunch time for the show. So we're getting the goods. So we're gonna be working on it for our. I feel like I need to mention this because it's been a while. We had a listener recommendation. Somebody recommended we watch LA Confidential. Jamal Park on Twitter is @Mapstone Park. Recommended we watch it. Jamal, I heard you. We're going to watch it. I promise. It's been on the outline for like 4 weeks, man. Like I promise we're going to get to it. I've never seen it. We will watch LA Confidential. I promise. And I'll hit you up when we do. So we'll get to that. But
I didn't realize you hadn't seen it. I've seen it, but not in a long time.
And it's funny. I think I got another movie we should watch with it. I'll tell you about it after the show. I was hearing about this other film that I think is similar in spirit that I've not seen, and I think you haven't seen either. So we'll talk about it. But if you enjoyed the show today, if you want to keep up with what we're going to be watching, if you want to know maybe if it's something else should have won the Golden Globes, or if you have some hot takes, you want to weigh in, you want to tell us what you thought about something, email us at mail@offscriptfilmreview.com. You can check out our website, offscriptfilmreview.com, where new episodes, live streams, and interviews are going up every single week. You can follow us on Facebook, where we live stream the show every single Tuesday evening at Offscript Film Review. Follow us on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on YouTube, where our live streams go up. And of course, you can find our podcasts everywhere you normally find podcasts. Weigh in the comments, DM us, right? Hit us up. Tell us what you think. If you want to support the show, though, if there's anything you want to do for us, the biggest thing you can do is just subscribe. Subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast platform so you can get new episodes of Offscript every single week straight to your ears from us. It would mean the world. And if you can really swing it, leave us a rating and review. It helps us a ton. You have no idea how much it helps us. It would mean a bunch, and we really appreciate it. So, with that being said, I think that covers about everything from Offscript Film Review, the home of bold cinema. I'm Zach Lewis.
And I'm Dr. Draper.
Thanks for watching.